Six Screens Telenetwork, earning the reputation of giving all the right ingredients, uninhibited, in exposing the hard, cold facts about the Watchtower Society.
Well, hello everyone, and welcome in to the Six Screens Telenetwork. Well, my name is Rick Farron. I'm up here at the control panel in Massachusetts, and we have a big program coming up tonight. If you missed the news this week in the Jehovah's Witness world, I don't know how you could have missed it. It's the biggest thing going since I've been doing this broadcast for 20 years. The buzz is on. More and more people are talking about the blood doctrinal change in the Watchtower that just happened yesterday, announced by a governing body member. Well, anyways, I'm glad you're in here with us. As I say, I'm coming to you from the apostate capital of the world. That's right up here in Boston, Massachusetts. And we can lay claim to that, folks. I can tell you that in 2025, we had a big ex-Jehovah's Witness convention. We had 350 people come up here to Boston, and we had such a great time. I want to thank all those people that came, including John Vinney. John Vinney, the man coming on here tonight. We got to meet him in person, and it was a wonderful occasion. Well, let's take a look and see what's going on behind the curtains. The governing body update, that was yesterday. That was March 20th, 2026. And of course, who delivered the governing body address, the update? Well, that would have been Garrett Loesch. And boy, I'll tell you what, Garrett's getting old. I mean, really, I think they could have picked someone better, but it's okay. It's all right. I know Garrett. In fact, I've met him personally and spent some time with him. But I think they could have used another person to deliver that address, seriously, because it was so important that the Watchtower got this through properly. So let's just think about a few things. Well, what I'm going to try to do here tonight, friends, is, when you have a big news story, there's 5 things that people want to know. They want to know who, they want to know what, they want to know when, where, and why. I mean, that is what everyone wants to know tonight, right? So we're going to try to give you the who, the what, the when, the where, and the why right here tonight on the Six Screens. Telenetwork, give you all the information that we have. We could talk all night long, but we're not going to do that. But anyway, just to bring you up to speed, yesterday, on March 20th, 2026, Garrett Loesch announces that storing self-donated blood is now a personal decision. Do you understand that? Each Christian, according to Loesch, must decide for himself how it will be used in all medical or surgical care, including whether to allow it to be removed, stored, and later reinfused. So anyways, I'm going to play a part of the video. Let me just play a little part of the video here, and you'll get an idea what Loesch was talking about. We won't play a long version of it, but just to give you a little understanding of what Loesch was actually saying, let's share our screen here with Brother Loesch, and we'll see if we can't get some clarity out of what Loesch was saying. So let's go right here. Let's bring Loesch on right now. Let's open up the video here, and let's see what Loesch is saying. Let's open up that up. Okay. Hold on one second here. I think we do have it muted, which we do. Okay, go ahead.
Commands concerning blood. Jehovah gave Noah and his descendants the timeless command, only flesh with its life, its blood, you must not eat. He likewise directed Christians to abstain from what is strangled and from blood. As Jehovah's Witnesses, we conscientiously obey this command today. It also affects the decisions we make about medical treatment involving blood. When making decisions about blood, we have also been guided over the years by what the Mosaic law stated at Leviticus 17, verse 13. If one of the Israelites or some foreigner who is residing in your midst is hunting and catches a wild animal or a bird that may be eaten, he must pour its blood out and cover it with dust. However, is that law binding on Christians? The simple answer is no.
Well, stop right there for a second, Brother Loesch. Now, I mean, I was a witness for 50 years, and the scriptures we would always use to abstain from blood, of course, in Leviticus, the Old Testament, Leviticus 17 specifically, we were told that, no blood, abstain from blood, all blood. There's no getting around it. But now it appears that, Christians aren't to follow the commands in Leviticus. So, that's, to me, that rattled my cage a little bit. Go ahead, Brother Loesch, continue on.
For one thing, Christians today are not under the Mosaic law. As the Apostle Paul said, as recorded at Colossians 2:13 and 14, God erased the handwritten document that consisted of decrees and was in opposition to us. He has taken it out of the way by nailing it to the torture stake. Therefore, Christians are not under the command that blood be poured out and covered with dust. Furthermore, the Bible does not comment on the use of a person's own blood.
Well, there he goes. Now he's getting into the meat here. He's saying the Bible does not comment on the use of a person's own blood. But Brother Loesch, I mean, in all fairness, in being a witness for as long as I have, and many people listening into our program here tonight, it was always stated that, we couldn't use our own blood, even if we took it out, saved it somewhere in a blood bank, and then reused it. It was transfused back into us. That was a no-no in the society. Now, Brother Loesch goes on to say that in 2002, they kind of left it up to a person's conscience. I'm sorry, in the year 2000, Loesch says they kind of left it up to a person's conscience. But then, I mean, there's been publications since then that have stated that no, you cannot, autologous is what they call it. Autologous blood is your own blood that they would put into a blood bank. And if you had an emergency, then you could take it. But, that was even on the blood card. That was something that was a no-no. You could not do that. As a matter of fact, I'm just going to put something up here. I want you to see this. That's enough for Brother Loesch right now. Let him go. We'll let him go. We'll get further into more of the information. I'm going to stop sharing that right now. But let's do this. Pretty soon we do. You see John on the screen there. We're going to be bringing him on with us very, very shortly. So you hang on, John. You'll be coming on. John is over in the United Kingdom. He was on the hospital liaison committee. He's going to have some thoughts on this as well. But I just want to put something up here to give you an idea what I'm talking about. Now, we all know that. So you see that on the screen right there? That is the card that all of us carried around, the death card. That is we used to call it the blood card, but then the Watchtower kind of suggested that, no, just don't call it the blood card, call it the no blood card. So, that is a specific medical card concerning the use of no blood. If you were Jehovah's Witness, you'd give that to the emergency people in the hospital, the doctors and whoever, and you did not want any blood at all. Now, let me show you this here. This is a portion of the blood card information, and it says right here that I refuse to the procedure of storing my own blood and later infused. So there it is. Now, the Jehovah's Witnesses, they still carry, right up till now, they still carry that no blood card. And on the instructions on that card, it says that they will not even use their own blood when it comes to a transfusion. So here we have Brother Loesch. I'm calling him Brother Loesch just for the vernacular terms here. So here is Brother Loesch saying that, it's up to your conscience. Well, how can it be up to your conscience when it's profoundly stated on that blood card that you cannot even take a transfusion of your own blood? Well, I wanted to bring that to your attention because I'll tell you what, this is getting a lot of buzz and people are really reacting to it. On Anne Marie's program earlier, Touched by the Tentacles of the Watchtower, we had so many people calling in. So some people are quite distraught. Seriously, and why not? I mean, many people have lost loved ones. They've had people die because of not taking a blood transfusion. So this, as I mentioned earlier, the term here that we want to be familiar with is autologous blood transfusion. Now, the Watchtower is now opening the door for that. Basically, they're saying it's up to your conscience, but they're giving you a green light. Autologous blood refers to an individual's own blood, which is collected and reinfused back in them rather than receiving blood from a separate donor. I think you all get that, okay? So the Watchtower's position now is you can take autologous blood, your own blood. So the Jehovah's Witness leadership, over strict interpretation, has had real consequences, enforcing a practice that isn't required by the Bible and has cost many lives. And I know it's made the organization blood guilty. They are blood guilty. And they had this over strict interpretation, and it had so many consequences. Many, many people have died from refusing blood transfusions, even having their own blood infused in them. Now, do you know how many people have died? Do you have any idea at all how many people have died because of the dictates of the Watchtower? Well, the annual deaths, according to most independent estimates, suggest that between 900 and 1,250 Jehovah's Witnesses die annually worldwide due to the refusal of blood transfusions. So 900 to 1,250 witnesses die annually worldwide. That's a lot of people. That's a lot of people. And the accumulative total as of, well, right now, early 2026, the numbers are estimates for deaths since the blood ban has been strictly enforced. And really, it seemed to be strictly enforced back in, I'm going to give the year 1961. I'm just going to give that year because that's when they really started putting the pressure on don't take blood. And I'm even to the point where people were dying. But to give you the amount of people since 1961 that have died, it ranges from 33,000. Now, it's a big jump. It's a quantum leap to up to 300,000 lives have been lost. Friends, if a 747 carrying 300 people crashed today, it would be all over the news for the next week, right? What happened? 300 people died. Now this has not been all over the news. 33,000 to 300,000 people have lost their lives because of following the policies of the Watchtower. I mean, all of a sudden I was seeing this being picked up by the media. I know this is a big story. We're not just reporting it here on 6 screens of the Watchtower. It's a big story. The news media in Britain, where John's from, he's probably read it, the BBC. They had a big news article all about how the Watchtowers changed their position on blood and now allowing for one's own blood to be transfused back into the person. And also AP News right here in America. It's all over the news concerning the change in the Watchtower. So the world is finding out about this. And we're going to go on to him and bring John on here. We're going to talk to him here shortly, and then we'll go more into some of the information I want to share with you tonight. And John's on with us. He can also give some comments on it as well. But let's go in now. I want to bring John Vinny. On. He, of course, is coming in from the United Kingdom. Well, let's bring John on right now. and see if we can't get him to give us some thoughts. Hello, John Vinny.
Oh, hello, Rick. It's nice to see you again. We were together in August at that momentous event. Still alive in 25. I think I'm only just coming down from the high of that. But
Well,
it's great to be here again to see you.
well, thank you. No, in fact, I'll tell you what. In fact, even if you get on Chat GPT or you get on one of these AI, questionnaire type things, searches, you will find that was the largest gathering of Jehovah's Witnesses, ex-Jehovah's Witnesses, I should say, largest gathering of ex-Jehovah's Witnesses ever in the history of the ex-Jehovah's Witness movement, John. I'm so glad you came up here. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, we appreciate it all. I know it was a lot of work and maybe even financial for you. It was a big, big thing, and we appreciated you doing it.
Oh, thank you, John. It was worth it. Well, I had a lot of fun, met a lot of people. Now, John, you know what's going on. I'm sure you saw the governing body update and what have you. Now, just tell the folks listening in here tonight how you kind of became very familiar with blood, what you can do, what you can't do. Tell us about what you served or helped the Watchtower with. Go ahead, John.
Okay, well, I was baptized in 1967 at the age of 15, brought up as a Jehovah's Witness. My mum and dad were very fervent. They moved to where the need was greater, and we lived we call them a caravan. You call them mobile homes, but I can assure you this was no luxury mobile home. It was just a small caravan that myself and my two sisters were brought up in. And it was we were quite a poor family, but my mum and dad were very, very faithful Jehovah's Witnesses. And I mention that because I don't think they would do it today, but for their faith to get to the big assemblies in London, my mum sold her wedding ring and her engagement ring just to get the money for gas to travel down. So that was an era where people really, really were what we called in the truth, and they really firmly believed it. And so I was brought up in that atmosphere, so I fervently and really believed it. And I moved to Wales when I was 17, and that's where I am now in the UK, but it's Wales. And met my wife in 1971, and we were married in 1972. I became a ministerial servant and then became an elder. And just before around about 1990, I got this letter through from the Watchtower Society asking me to be on a hospital liaison committee. It was very, very new. We didn't even know what it was. Eventually, I was appointed the chairman of this hospital liaison committee, and I was on it for 15 years, right up until the time I actually left being a Jehovah's Witness. So it was a momentous time for me, I have to say. I threw myself into it. We wrote to doctors, hundreds and hundreds of doctors of all specialities, to try to get them to be slightly on our side as Jehovah's Witnesses, so that if there were medical emergencies, we had names of doctors that we could go to. I attended international conferences, which were really interesting, where the leading doctors of the time that were doing things medically without blood gave talks, so we could try to understand why and how they were doing that, so that we could pass that on to our local doctors. So it was a very busy time, and of course, yes, we had to deal with the issue of blood and what we could and what we couldn't do. I don't know if there's anything else particularly, Rick. I would just say that
I just want to say,
been out now for. Sorry, I've been out now of the Jehovah's Witnesses for just about 20 years, and that's gone very quickly. But I have tried to keep up to date with, the new light as it comes out, and as you can imagine, yesterday's announcement. It has caused quite a storm in the ex-Jehovah's Witness community. And I would say that the biggest thing that hit me, Rick, hearing that announcement by Garrett Loesch, was looking at all of the ex-Jehovah's Witnesses now on the online, and you've actually made reference to it. I'm saddened that so many people have been saddened by this announcement. It has knocked the stuffing out of a lot of very good ex-Jehovah's Witnesses, and has left them, I think, flattened. And I regret that it's had that reaction. The other thing I would desperately like to be a fly on the wall in the Watchtowers Bethel homes is to see what sort of discussions have been had over the last few months between the service desks, the writing desk, and the legal desk. Because I personally think that it's going to open the floodgates of legal action. And I think they must be absolutely scared brickless, I think we call it, because there are going to be people now, I am sure, that will realize that they've been misled, their loved ones have died needlessly, and will probably take legal action. And I think actually, you know how the pedophilia, the child abuse, how that's been growing, and the interest in it has been growing, and the amount of court cases against Watchtower has been growing with the large amounts of money they've been settling out of court. We have specialist lawyers now that have specialized all over the world in taking Watchtower to court, and that they've got to know the Watchtower beliefs about not reporting pedophilia. And I think there's now going to be probably lawyers that will see this and will become specialists in taking Watchtower to court over loss of life and damage done to families, with people fully believing and being told that God wants you to do this. And now the Watchtower are telling them, oh, actually, God didn't really want you to do this. So I expect there to be quite a lot of legal action.
Well, John, that's that I haven't thought of that, but I mean, I knew there would be some suits, but what you just mentioned there kind of rattled my cage a little bit, so to speak. Like the pedophilia took off like a rocket, and then there's actually law firms that are specializing in helping Jehovah's Witnesses come to the table with their abuse and looking to sue the Watchtower. So the same thing could happen here, John. Now, the Hospital Liaison Commission is still in force as we speak around the world with Jehovah's Witnesses. Are they all going to have to come in for a special meeting and be retrained, or what?
Well, I think they're going to have to know what now to say to doctors. I don't think just that governing body announcement is going to satisfy the hospital liaison committees, because they have to give advice to brothers and sisters that ring them. The hospital liaison committees have to give advice to elders that contact them when they have medical situations in their congregations. So the hospital liaison committee members have got to be very, very clued in as to what the latest medical beliefs are. Over the years, that's what we had to do. As you know, I think in the 1940s, when blood transfusions were first discussed, all blood was a no-go area. Then we were told things like having heart transplants and stuff like that. You couldn't do that. And then there were changes in beliefs, eventually realizing that blood can scientifically be divided up into smaller parts So when is blood not blood? That those discussions happened, so that when you had red cells and white cells and platelets and plasma, the Watchtower Society decided, well, those are the four major components. We can't say that they're not blood, they are blood. But the other things that are in that blood that can be extracted, well, that's a matter for your conscience if you think that's blood or not. So over the years, as science has been able to break up the substance of blood into smaller areas, that the brothers and sisters have been allowed to make their decisions on that. And what's happened now is, I mean, this is a major one, because we have in writing, and this is the big thing. I think in your discussion just before you came to me, there were people saying how we need to keep the books, the old books, that the latest Jehovah's Witnesses don't believe that 1975 was ever said. Well, we that have the books know it was said. And I think it's going to be very important that all of the quotes where Watchtower have said you cannot use stored blood, we need to keep those. Just for instance, you if I may, you commented on the and Garrett Loesch commented on the Watchtower from 2000, so it's 25 years ago, the October the 15th, where he quotes from it in that brief discussion that you just showed. If he had only read out other paragraphs in it, that would have been very clear. I'll just, if I may, just read you a couple of points from the very same Watchtower that Garrett Loesch quoted. However, such collecting, storing, and transfusing of blood directly contradicts what is said in Leviticus and Deuteronomy. Blood is not to be stored, it is to be poured out. And then another paragraph, hence, we do not donate blood, nor do we store for transfusion our blood that should be poured out. That practice conflicts with God's law. So if people have been told that it conflicts with God's law, and so they wouldn't want to go against what God says, but now suddenly God has said, oh, actually, you can. So we need to keep these quotes. We need to keep this literature. We need to keep the blood cards. And I have no doubt that that will be quoted in court cases where people were told that if they were to break God's law, of course, we know that's just the Watchtower Society's law. If they were to break that, you could be disfellowshipped. You could be put out of the organization. So I think they're very powerful legal arguments. But Watchtower here have tried to do a smooth transition, and it's worked to some degree, because I saw even some Jehovah's Witness comments today online where Jehovah's Witnesses were saying, oh, I thought we've always said that. We've always said that. So you're going to have people saying, oh, no, it's not really much of a change. Just like they said about disfellowshipping. We have the example of the shunning. We all know what happens when someone is disfellowshipped. Those of us that have been disfellowshipped or have had to disfellowship family members, it has been of late, the Watchtower Society have put out public statements indicating we don't shun, and have just slightly changed what shunning can do. And what has happened then is that Jehovah's Witnesses have grasped that and think that it must still be the truth, because look how loving God is. And I think some will still see this and won't see it as we are seeing it, but they'll see it as, isn't God loving because he's now letting us live when we could have died.
Oh yeah, in fact, I get information from one man today when he told his mother, he's exiting the Watchtower. He's a PMO. His mother doesn't know it, but he told his mother. He said, "Ma, what do you think of the update on Garrett Loesch talking about you can now take stored blood?" So she says, well, isn't it wonderful? The governing body is kind of relaxing the rules a little bit. I mean, it goes beyond it. People have died because of this, John. Now, I'm thinking, as you know, in the last couple of years, there's been so many changes. Of course, it started with beards. Then, of course, women could wear slacks. And then, of course, we learned about this fellowshipping, now calling it removed. We learned you can now go to higher education. You can also toast. But I was thinking blood would have been the last thing I would have touched with a 10-foot pole if I was the Watchtower. So what's your take on why they're coming out with this now, John?
I think that they are realizing that probably this was the right time after all of those other changes. This is a big one. And I still stick to what I said earlier, that I actually think it's going to be a rod for their back. And now they can say in court from now on, oh no, we told people they can do what they like with their own blood. And that's been the problem. The press releases that from Watchtower with all of these other edicts that they say we have to follow. The press releases have always softened what the actual beliefs are. And I think now they've done this so that it can be said, as reported in the BBC, and you've said in programs in America and worldwide, people will be saying now, oh, well, no, that's good. Now Jehovah's Witnesses can decide for themselves. It's not us as an organization. So I just think it's done really as a publicity stunt and to stop future legal claims. But
Well,
whether that's
thank
true, whether that is
well,
the result
I kind of agree
of
with
what will
you
the
on that.
result
I
will.
got thinking the same thing. I mean, the Jehovah's Witness movement. I mean, it's not like the Catholicism. It's a small time religion, really. So I'm really surprised that these major newspapers have picked the story up and ran with it. I'm wondering if they were prodded on. Hold on one second. I'm wondering if the Watchtower was actually prodding them on to print the story so that these countries that are now investigating them and having them under the microscope will kind of lessen their investigation and say, well, no, well, the Jehovah's Witnesses are changing. There's got to be a big reason there, John. Yeah. Can we
Yeah,
open up
well,
the
I
line?
have no doubt that the press releases have been given.
Yeah. No, we got a lot of people. We got a lot of people
So,
coming in tonight. Do you mind if
okay,
we have some
fine.
people come in and call? Was that you, Nicole? Go
No,
ahead.
that's fine.
I want to say that there will be an uprising AIDS death. The blood transfusion is often connected to the AIDS pandemic. If you make a memorial quilt panel for each JW who died refusing blood transfusion, compare that to the numbers of those that died of AIDS due to a blood transfusion.
Well, there you go. Who's this calling in, by the way? Who's this?
The guy from South Florida.
South Florida. Okay. Well, okay. Well, thank you, South Florida. So in other words, there's a lot of people have died. Have you ever lost a friend in the Watchtower from refusing a blood transfusion?
Not to my knowledge, thank goodness.
Well, thank.
I'm into the history of the AIDS thing.
Yeah. Well, we won't get into that tonight because that's another issue. But thank you for calling in, caller. Thank you. Let's go to 409. Go ahead, 409. You're on with us.
Hi, Rick. This is Donald here from Texas.
Yes, Donald.
I want you guys to all look at this because this is going to be very, very interesting. Jesus actually said that if you don't eat my flesh, now here it comes, or drink my blood. Now we know you don't literally drink God's blood. That's not what it was. But he's using that. when he says, if you don't eat my flesh and drink my blood, you have no life. Now, it's interesting because all this stuff, about Leviticus and about pouring out the blood on the ground because it's got life in it, if all of that were true, why would Jesus actually use in his statement blood, even though, yes, we don't really drink his blood, of course, or eat his flesh, literally. But it's interesting that he used the word blood in that, because he said, if you don't do this, you have no life in you. And yet all these years, Watchtower has refused medical blood transfusions, saying it's against God's rules, against God's law. But yet here's Jesus himself saying, drink my blood. Now, like I said, it's not literally his blood, but it's interesting that he uses that because blood is life. And when Jesus died on the cross, he gave his life for us. And if we take communion, in a way, we're spiritually, not physically, but spiritually, taking a blood transfusion because of what he said. Drink my blood, eat my flesh, and you will be raised on the last day.
All right. Well, no, we got it. No, I see what you're trying to say there, Donald. In other words, if there was a strict prohibition, as Watchtower has led people to believe biblically, to abstain from blood. I mean, they go way above the line of duty. Then Jesus never would have made reference to that. He wouldn't have said that because he knows it would have had consequences making a statement like that. Well, thank you, Donald. That's a different twist on it. Thank you. Appreciate it.
And I noticed this Loach, and you played the clip, and I've listened to it 3 times today. He said the magic words. He said, "We are not under the Mosaic law."
Well, Pixie, when you were one of Jehovah's Witnesses, we knew that scripture in Leviticus had some clout. I can remember even using it in Bible studies. When you get to a point, you were studying the Bible with someone, and it got into the doctrine on blood, you would say, well, study. In the book of Leviticus, it specifically says refrain from blood. And I mean, we would use that over and over and over again. Now he's saying that, and he took a quantum leap there when he talked about, we're not under the Mosaic law. Well, I do that anyways, being a Christian today, but I'm glad to see the Watchtower changing. Yes.
And my dad was against the blood policy from the start, from the 40s on. And he would always say, we're not under the Mosaic law. And we know that Peter had, a new food plan that included bacon. And so if we're not under the Mosaic law, then we can choose life, and we can have that blood transfusion, and we can have more years. And when I was doing journalism full time, I called a rabbi in New York, and I said, do conservative rabbis in New York have a prohibition against blood transfusions in medicine? And he says, no, ma'am. So this has been a very interesting day.
Well, thank you for chiming in, Pixie. Let's move on here. We've got a lot of people coming in. We don't have a telephone number, but I'm going to go with.
Hi, Rick.
Yeah, who's this?
Hi, this is JJ from the UK.
JJ, thank you for calling in.
Hello.
Hello, yes.
Yeah, hi. Yeah. I'd like to just say hello to John. We spoke, John, back in July last year. I was in hospital at the time. I still remain anonymous, and I work under the name JJ. But I just wanted to mention, John, whether you would agree with me, the language that was used by the governing body here, I think is very significant. If you notice, he says that you can have your blood stored and then given back to you. And I'm thinking to myself, well, how is this given back to you? Is it given back to you in a beaker or a bottle or
In
some
a
other
cup.
container? Really, he's refusing to use the medical terms that are necessary in order for someone to have their blood given back to them. And what he's basically saying is you would have to have a blood transfusion in order to have your blood returned to you, even if you were to store it for some time. The other thing I think is not really clear, this idea that you can just store blood. You could all go, right, oh, brilliant, I'll go and store 50 litres of my blood, and just in case something happens in the future. Blood can only be stored for a very short period of time, some 42 days, as I understand it. So, it would only be for selected procedures. Maybe you might be able to, in advance, store your blood for something. But something also occurred to me while I was thinking about this. I never had really thought it through. John, when someone says you can have fractions, this is obviously comes from donated blood. But if a witness was to go and say, well, I've gone down to the local medical centre and I've donated some of my blood, that would be a judicial matter. So how can you have fractions or parts of blood that are donated blood? Because that would be going against the policy of donating blood in the first place. So the whole thing is a complete mess, and it's contradictory. And I think Loesch is being disingenuous by the way he's talking to the Brotherhood when he doesn't clearly state the language in a way that reflects what's actually happening here. And that is someone is storing their blood and having it donated back to them or infused back to them, because that's the only way they can accept it. What do you think, John?
That's right, JJ. And first of all, it's nice to hear you and hear you again. Yeah, you're right. You brought up those interesting things. I mean, that's always been an anomaly, that when Jehovah's Witnesses have gone into hospitals and needed maybe factor 8 or something like that for hemophiliacs, that factor 8 has come from someone else's blood who donated it. But that was a matter of conscience. If you had someone else's parts of someone else's blood, that was always a conscience matter. And I now raise the question. Now Gerrit Loesch has said what you do with your blood is now your conscience. Does that mean to say that you can donate it? If that's what you decide to do with your blood, I'm wondering whether that needs to be thrashed out first of all. What would the theocratic position be on you now donating your blood if you want to give it to the blood bank? And you could say, oh no, I'm giving it to the blood bank, but I know that all they're going to do, and this is true, all they're going to do is to split it up into the 4 major components and all of those other smaller components, which we can have as a matter of conscience anyway. So yeah, it's to use your expression, it is a little bit of a mess. So it would just be interesting to see what I think as time goes on, we'll find out really what the latest decisions are about some of those other things.
Yeah. Obviously, the blood's a big one. But when you actually look at all of these recent changes that have come through, whether it be the beards or sisters being allowed to wear slacks, the hours, all of these things, always comes back to this one phrase that it's all to do with your personal conscience, what you feel you can and cannot do. And this is where they've taken the blood issue. It's now slowly but surely going down this road that actually it's going to be down to you to make your own decisions about these things. We're going to give you some guidance, but it's going to be always down to you. And I think then it's going to be very difficult for elders to be stepping in saying we don't agree with what you've done here, and we want to see you in the back room over it. You know, this is all history as far as I'm concerned. I think over the blood history, they've opened the floodgates now because it's all open and up for interpretation.
That's right. And to go back to your point, JJ, Garrett Loesch did not use the word transfusion, and you can imagine the lawyers saying, "Look, when you give this this little transcript, Garrett, whatever you do, don't use the word transfusion." But that's exactly what would have to happen for you to have your blood back. If you were going to pre-donate it, if you can do that, if you're going in for surgery, and you can say to the consultant surgeon or anaesthetist, look, I'm a Jehovah's Witness. I don't believe in having blood transfusions per se, but I am now allowed to have my own blood put back. Can I come in the week before to have a pint or 2 pints donated? And they have and will do that under certain circumstances. Of course, we've not been able to do that because of the belief system. But the only way that blood is going to get put back into you is they're going to give you a blood transfusion of your own blood. Perhaps they don't like to use the word transfusion because it's almost opening up the floodgates again. But you are right. That's what they will be doing. I should just mention, of course, over the last few years, perhaps 20 or so years, there have been various medical procedures that have allowed your blood, if you want to, this is your conscience, if you want your blood to be cleansed. For instance, if you were having an operation and you bled, the cell saver machine, which was like a vacuum cleaner, would suck your blood up, take it round a machine, would clean it, reoxygenate it, and put it back into you. That's always been a matter of conscience, but that was an option. They have a hemodilution technique, which is where you could, just prior to being operated on, they would drain some of your blood out into bags outside your body, but still connected to you. And so they increase the volume of blood that you have in your whole body. So instead of 8, you might have 10 pints of blood, but some of it is diluted. And then when you bleed in an operation, you're bleeding diluted blood, but you've still got most of your blood left, and they can just put all that back. So there's been quite a lot of techniques that have always been a little bit, iffy. Is that okay to have? And Watchtower have said, yes, it's up to your conscience. So really, although this is a big step, they have always looked at ways in which they could say, well, that's up to you. And to be honest, elders can't touch you for it. So you might have an elder that says, I wouldn't have a cell saver machine. I wouldn't want blood re-sucked up and put back into me. But they couldn't go to a brother or a sister in the congregation and say, I've heard you've used the cell saver. They can't do that. And neither now will they be able to go to anyone in the congregation that wants to have their blood stored.
Yeah, but isn't it true that those blood saver machines, isn't it true that those blood saver machines were actually financed through or organised through the organisation anyway? Because I remember, I have a vague memory, I wasn't involved in it, but I do have a vague memory. We as a circuit bought 2 and had them donated to our local hospitals.
That's right. Yeah.
Everybody.
I can tell you how that started. If Rick doesn't mind, I remember giving a lecture to a large group of doctors in Newport in South Wales. And this is how it all started. We gave a lecture to a group of doctors. We invited a circuit overseer to come and be in the audience. And we talked about these cell saver machines being a matter of conscience, and that it might be that could save a life of a Jehovah's Witness. And during the question time afterwards, an anaesthetist said, it's all right you saying about using these machines. We don't have these machines in this country. Why don't you people buy one and give it to us? and that came from the floor. So when we met for coffee afterwards with the circuit overseer, we said, well, he's got a point there. Would we be allowed to sort of tell the local congregations that our local hospital would like one? Would you donate the money? And I can tell you from there, we set the Cell Saver Committee up, and it went from our little area in South Wales right through the country. And we had meetings with the makers of these machines. So I've got very, very good memories of how the Cell Saver came into being, because we started it in South Wales, and in some ways I'm very proud of that. And we donated machines to loads of hospitals. So it wasn't the Watchtower per se that did it. It was Jehovah's Witnesses, and the Watchtower actually didn't get involved in it. But it was one of those schemes that we thought was a good idea to do.
Could you say the Watchtower, David?
Hold on one second. We got a lot of callers coming in here at once. JJ, thank you for hold on, Pixie.
Thank you, JJ.
Hey, Pixie, hold on. You're gonna have to hold on now. You already commented once. We'll let you comment again. But we get a lot of other people trying to come in here as well. So let's check this out right now. People are coming in. Let's go to 813. 813, you're on with us. Go ahead. 813, you want to speak up? Go ahead. You're on with us.
This is Scott.
Yes, Scott.
Yeah, my father went through that back in the 70s. He had kidney surgery. They made a big deal of the fact that he didn't take blood. They posted in the newspaper. And then later, towards his death in the early 80s, they were giving him albumin, which I know is one of the components that they started to approve. And I know my mother and father didn't have any, issue with that. And personally, in the last several years, I had to face a blood transfusion because of low hemoglobin, because of a bleeding ulcer. I was down in the 4s, which is dangerously low. And that was the only way to quickly bring your hemoglobin back up, was a blood transfusion. I didn't hesitate to take it because I felt it was medically necessary. But one of the things that I heard after this announcement that I just found very compelling is the idea that when Noah was instructed to spill out the blood for what it represented, it was because of the death of an animal, so that they may live. And it's the representation of what blood is. But in this case, when people donate blood, no one's died. When you donated your own blood, or somebody else donates blood, you're using blood that was given freely, and nobody actually died. And I just found that to be a very compelling argument, that's all. But I was very much shocked by this announcement, and it kind of hit me hard because of knowing what happened with my father in the past and myself.
Well, thank you. Thank you. Let's move on. We got another caller coming in from, I forget where it would be, but let's go to 651. 651, you're on with us. Go ahead.
Yeah, Rick, thanks for taking my call. Can you hear me okay?
Oh, yes. Yep.
Okay. I just have a small comment. I would like to direct it to John on his opinion. He made a statement, which I agree, that this change is also for protecting the Watchtower for any future lawsuits. But here's my question. Do you think that maybe they also did this blood change to try to keep the brothers and sisters from leaving the congregation?
I think you're right there. I think the flow of people leaving, particularly younger people, if the figures are what we're told we can believe, and I think we can see it with our own eyes, the amount of kingdom halls that are closing down and being sold, and congregations amalgamating. Right where I am in South Wales, there are less Jehovah's Witnesses and less congregations than I was part of 20 years ago. So I think you're right that that is part of the reason that any difficulty that they can remove is going to be helpful to them. So the beards, the slacks, and the other, the other decisions that they've made. I'm sure that part of it is to keep people in the organization. So I think you're right there.
Well, thank you, John. Look at now. I just want to mention to people, we had a lot of people calling in. Lots of people calling in. Well, what you want to do if you want to speak up, you have to hit *6. That will unmute you. I'm gonna bring 227 on next. I'll unmute you 227. In fact, you're unmuted now. You're on with us 227. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you for having me, Rick. I would just want to give my homage and respect to you, just as your activism for over 20 years. I know for sure because you were the absolute first apostate, air quote, apostate that I saw online. So I want to thank you for your persistence and consistency, first of all.
Well, thank you.
Second of all, I do want to say that there's something that I want to bring attention to the culture, and it's very important because we are becoming lost sheep within themselves. The reason why I say that is because the way that we speak about the Watchtower falling and the inevitable collapse due to the different formulas or theories or theological stances that they are differentiating from their original stances, it sounds like us just waiting for the kingdom to come. It sounds the same way. We keep giving them excuses. We keep saying the signs are coming, and it's never coming. And I'm gonna tell you why it's never coming. And I'm gonna tell you what it's going to be. I'm gonna tell you what we got to do to combat that as well. But we sound just like them. We're waiting, and it's never going to come. I'm gonna tell you why it's never going to come, because it's never going to be the end to the Watchtower that we know. It's going to be the end to the evolved Watchtower, and it's going to evolve to something else. And I'm gonna tell you why. Because everybody thinks that these rules matter and their explanations matter, and the foolish part is that they think that they're going to make sense. They don't make sense. Every rule that they change is a litmus test to how many sheep they have left. They're testing how many idiots are still in the organization. There's no reasoning. So it's very disappointing for all these new people that are coming in and trying to reason back. How can you reason with somebody with something they never reasoned their theology into in the first place? You can't. Stop doing that. You're wasting time. Now, if you want to use your life for that, that's cool. I respect that. And I respect awareness. I agree. Everybody has a certain role. I respect that. But if you actually want a productive, action, you have to be the leader within yourself. You have to show it. You can't just speak about it because we've been speaking about it for hundreds of years now and it doesn't happen. That's what I'm here to say. The blood transfusions, I don't even know the details of. It doesn't matter because their details never change. It always was unreasonable. But it doesn't matter because unreasonableness doesn't lead to waking up. What leads to waking up is awareness and you just knowing. It's hard to explain, but some people need it. So I appreciate you and giving me this platform to express that thought. And I would like to know your opinion, and I would like to give a chance to respond to your opinion.
What do you think, John? You want to comment on that?
To be honest, Rick, I didn't.
Yeah, well, what he's saying
The line
is,
wasn't very good. So could you just reiterate quickly the question?
Yeah,
what our caller was.
What the caller is basically saying here is, the Watchtower is unreasonable. The people in it. I mean, how do you reason with unreasonable people? Number one, number two. I think what he was focusing on here is the Watchtower. Will continue to go on. It will evolve. In other words, it will evolve from what it is. From what I gather him saying, it will evolve from what it is now into something else, and people will still be duped into it. Yeah, I mean,
I got that. Thank you. Yeah, I think you're right. How do you reason with people in the Watchtower? Well, you can't, because people tried to reason with me, and I wouldn't reason with them because I thought they were apostate. They were wrong. I had the truth, and I was right, and I had the only true faith. And so you're right, sir, that it's almost impossible. And that's why I now don't go up to any of the Jehovah's Witnesses that you see on their carts. Although having said that, I did just last week in Chicago because I was in the United States, and I wanted to clarify about the disfellowshipping. So I actually did speak to an elder. But with regard to reasoning about their beliefs, I know that you can never talk a Jehovah's Witness into giving up. You will never be able to convince them. something has to happen to them in their life within the organization that makes them think, well, that's not very nice, or I can't see the point of that. Once that little chink gets in there and then they do their research, that's when I think they can start seeing that it's crumbling. But I agree with you that you are almost wasting your time if you're trying to debate with Jehovah's Witnesses. You can only remain calm and hope that something will happen. Even like this blood transfusion, there will be people waking up now once they hear this, and they'll see it and will say, well, that can't be right. Well, how can that be right now when we were told God said it was this, and now God is telling us this? And I'm sure that it's things like that that will wake people up rather than our trying to talk them out of it. And I think you're right. It's the Watchtower is becoming an organization that's very slick, business like, not so much religious almost. So it might emerge into something. But do you know what? I don't care if it emerges into anything as long as it doesn't do the damage that it's doing now. Anything that Watchtower are doing now that is damaging needs to stop. And if they want to carry on as a religion and become like the Church of England or the Baptist or any other mainstream religion, then that's up to them. But I don't want to see them ruining people's lives by telling them they can't have medical blood, or that they are paedophilia and they don't report it. Those dangerous bits of Jehovah's Witnesses I want stopped. And then, yes, carry on as a religion if you want to.
Yeah, I want to make it clear though, if I'm still on, I would like to make it clear that I'm not saying that, and I agree with everything you said. I want to make it clear that I'm not saying an activism effort isn't a mute point. I'm saying to lower your expectations what comes out of it, because it works more as a gradual process. So when your attack is more covert than overt, then it has more lasting effects, because you cannot convince somebody something they didn't reason themselves into. And most of these people didn't reason themselves into Jehovah's Witness. They were indoctrinated. So how are you going to convince somebody into something that they didn't even reason themselves into? It makes no sense. So I'm not saying there's a mute point in activism. I love activism. I'm a victim of the activism being a tipping point for me. I want to make that clear, a tipping point. There's Jenga blocks where you take them out separately and slowly, and then they collapse, and all of a sudden one day you wake up. That was me. And I want to thank the support system of the activism crowd and everybody that was there to support me. But I want to say, when you try to play their game, you're already losing. Not you specifically, John, not you specifically, Rick, just in general. When you play their game of reasoning, you're reasoning within the boundaries. There's no way to win because they could switch the boundaries any way they want. And when you can switch the boundaries,
right there.
There's no winning.
Yeah, you are right there. Yeah. You can't reason with them. That's exactly it. So you are actually wasting your time. I won't go into it now, but I remember talking to two Jehovah's Witnesses outside the White House in Washington. I'll never forget that experience. And can I just quickly say that, Rick?
Yeah, go ahead.
Just to prove the point of what you said. I was in Washington, D.C. about 5 years ago, and I saw two Jehovah's Witnesses outside the White House. And I said to my wife, I'm just going to go and have a little word. And she said, no, don't go over. Please don't go over there. And I went over to see the two sisters, and I didn't tell them I was a Jehovah's Witness. I just said, there's a couple of things I wanted to ask a Jehovah's Witness that I can't understand. And this is what I said to her. I said, I know you believe that Armageddon's coming and that there's going to be lots destroyed. Wouldn't it have been kinder if God brought Armageddon in, say, 1940? Because then he would have only had to have destroyed maybe 2 billion of his children. Or wouldn't it have been better to have come in 1950 or 1960 or 1970? Because as the years have gone on, he's got to kill more and more of his children at the Battle of Armageddon. Wouldn't it have been kinder? And I just used it like that. And all she did was step away. So I said, look, I don't know, perhaps I didn't describe that properly. I said, all I'm saying is, we're all God's children. So on Armageddon, he's going to have to kill his children. Wouldn't it have been kinder to have brought Armageddon in 1940 or then 1950 or 1960? Because each decade that goes on, he's got to kill more of his children. And I just was using that to make her think. And to your reasoning, she didn't. All she said was, in fact, all she did was step back. So when I finished my little reasoning talk with her, she was 6 feet away. I was standing next to the cart, and she just shouted, "Are you an apostate?" So she couldn't reason. I thought I was using some sort of quite good reasoning power to make her think. So I just hope that proves your point, that you really very rarely can get through to Jehovah's Witnesses trying to reason with them.
Well, John, good.
Well, yeah,
Oh, go ahead. Go.
And I'll leave. Rick, I promise you. Give me 20 seconds. I'll show. I thank you in advance, Rick. Thank you. Please. I agree with what you're saying, John. And but I want to say that it's worth the effort in the long term, with expectations for the long term. You know what I mean? So that's where I'm at right now with it, because I've been doing this for a while now, not nowhere near as long as Rick, of course. I'm doing it for 5 years now, and I've just seen the pattern going on to the point where I'm trying to find the most efficient way. Now, ultimately, this is going to be a stretch. I'll leave off with this. I think that ultimately the organization as a whole is a witness protection program for pedophiles, but that's another story. Now, once you have those powers protecting you, it's very hard. I'll leave off with that. But I do want to say, those who have lost loved ones, I cannot personally say that I experienced that. I will never think like I experienced that. For the healing of that, I have no clue what it feels like. So I'm sorry if this message seems to be a lack of tact. I really apologize, and I feel for you, because I have never experienced that, and I fear for that day. But for those, I wish that you will find your peace through other theologies and truths that are something that you don't have to be artificial about, so at least you can be yourself while you're mourning and appreciating your loved ones.
Well, very good. Thank you. Thank you very much for calling in and voicing your thoughts and giving us your opinion. Appreciate it. Listen, we got to go. We had a lot of people calling in here tonight. How about Anonymous? We got Anonymous on with us. Anonymous, you're unmuted. Go ahead. What do you have to say?
It's Grace. I wanted to say that the older ones are dying off, and the younger ones, they have internet, and they are used to research things, and they don't just have one source. They have many sources, at least 3 sources, and they are just on internet all the time, the younger people, and they want to go abroad, and they want a new cell phone all the time. They don't want to give all their money to Jehovah's Witness. They don't want to get baptized and free labor. They want to get paid for their work. So that's many reasons why the Watchtower is hemorrhaging. Is because of the younger generation, and that internet is the great equalizer. And since the JW.org, it's not really a religion, it's a business. And there will be a day somewhere in the near future where they will have more money going out than coming in. And that day, they will have to shut the religion down. That's how simple it is. It's just a business. So thank you.
Well, thank you, Grace. Of course, Grace comes in from Sweden. We thank you very much, Grace, for spending some time with us here in the 6 screens. John, yeah, so I got some information today. A man got a hold of me. A man actually gave me some thoughts to really bring up here tonight. He was 9 years old, and his father went into the hospital and needed a transfusion, and he wouldn't take it because he was a loyal Jehovah's Witness, and he died. Now, this young man never got the real reason why he died. His mother was a loyal witness, and when his father died, now bear in mind, him and his brother, they were young, and the uncle came to the house, who was Jehovah's Witness as well, and told them that his dad died in the hospital, but never told him it was for refusing a blood transfusion. He never knew it. And then he grew older, and I guess he's in his 30s today. He found out the real reason. His grandmother, who was gotten out of the Jehovah's Witness, said his father died for refusing a transfusion. How many people, even in the Watchtower, I'm thinking, John, it was covered up. Just, well, he died. They didn't really get into the reason why. I mean, have you heard stories like that before where the witnesses would cover up why a person died when it was really a lack of taking a blood transfusion? I'm sure you must have heard something like that, right?
I know that I certainly know people that have died for refusing blood. The problem with that is that the Jehovah's Witnesses seem to have thought that that's a very proud thing, and they actually, almost opposite to what you were saying, the Jehovah's Witnesses would almost make them a martyr by saying, "Isn't it wonderful that brother Smith respected God's law and died?" So I don't know of anyone that that sort of that hid it deliberately. Well, I'm sure there are Jehovah's Witnesses that took blood and hid it because they didn't want their brothers to know that they had a blood transfusion. I'm sure of that. But I don't know so much that once people knew that someone had died and refused blood, I found the other to be true, that they wanted to use that as an example to preach and say, what a wonderful example Brother Smith has been to us. And, let's hope our faith is as strong as Brother Smith's.
Well, you're absolutely right with that, because you got me thinking. Of course, it was back in 1983. It was an Awake magazine, and it showed a bunch of young Jehovah's Witness children,
Yeah.
kids, on the front cover, and how they martyred their life for Jehovah, how they died in hopes of being resurrected into the new world. And the Watchtower had the audacity to actually, print this in a publication. It's really a defaming article concerning, letting young people die and then making them martyrs for the Watchtower. So, yeah, you're right with that. There's a certain privilege, maybe that's not the right word, but a certain trophy, I suppose, that goes along with dying.
Kudos.
Yeah. Yeah. So another question too, JJ called in from England, and he brought up the storing blood. Now, I guess they do that in England quite a bit. I imagine they do it here in America too. But I'm just thinking of the legal ramifications. Now, if you're a Jehovah's Witness and you heard Garrett Loesch yesterday, so you say, okay, I feel better. Honey, you're pregnant. You're going to have a baby here soon. Let's go to the local hospital and tell them that you want to have your blood stored. Now you go to, the local hospital and you talk to the administration, and they say, well, we really don't get into that. I mean, I could see legal issues here. I really, really could. Will the hospital?
My one brief little point.
Yeah.
Diane Wilson wrote a book about the pregnant women and the RH factor babies within the witnesses, and how many pregnant women died and how many RH factor babies were not saved. They couldn't store their own blood. So one fight might help some pregnant women, but you have a large number that need a whole lot of blood, and a whole lot of RH factor babies die. And Diane Wilson notes this in her paperback.
Yeah. So the point. Go ahead, John. Yeah.
Well, just yes. The when a woman has a baby and then has a very severe bleed afterwards, it can be a tremendous blood loss. So you're right. Whether you could store enough blood to cope with that. The other thing I was thinking about, of course, is it's not the answer to all of the Jehovah's Witness problems, is it? Because you don't know where you're going to be when you have your accident. It's okay if you are going to go in for elected surgery and everything goes smoothly and they have 2 pints of your blood that they've stored. But if you're in a car accident on the other side of the country, or you're having a baby in another part of when you're on vacation, it's not going to be the answer to all of the problems, just the fact that you can store your blood, because you've got to hope that if you did need that blood, that you're where the blood is. If you're not where the blood is, then you're stuck.
Well, John, that's what I'm thinking logistically. I mean, logistically, there's monumental issues with this idea of storing your blood. Like you say, maybe for elective surgery, but even then, I mean, you just can't go into, Massachusetts General Hospital. Let's use them for example, and say, I'm going to have surgery next week. Could you please store my blood? Well, first of all, they're going to want to make sure you have the right insurance. I don't see where hospitals is going to, accommodate your needs without a cost. I mean, hospitals have to make money. So that they're gonna say to you, well, will your insurance cover this? I'm not even sure if insurance would cover it. So now you might have to land up, putting a sizable amount of money down for them to store your blood. And then if I was the administrator at the hospital, I'd be saying, this could get complicated here. Well, what if all of a sudden we gave them the wrong blood, the bag was mixed up or whatever? Geez, we could have a lawsuit on our hands. So I'm thinking a lot of hospitals, John, wouldn't touch this with a 10-foot pole. Am I correct in thinking that way?
Probably, because you have a different healthcare system over in the United States than we have here. We have a national health service. They're still as prone to mistakes, of course. So if someone went in and you stored 2 pints of your blood, you are still going to hope that you're going to get your 2 pints of your blood back. Whether in the United States doctors have agreed, I know they have agreed here, because you are a Jehovah's Witness and you're a special case, they do normally go the extra mile to guarantee that you're not going to die on the operating table, normally. So when you go in early for your operation, they can either ensure that they have a cell saver machine on hand, so that if you were bleeding, they can reuse your blood, or it is possible for them to store your blood. Of course, that hasn't been possible. So any offer of doing that up until yesterday would have had to have been refused. So I think more information would be needed, Rick, in the United States as to how that could practically be done when you have a good Jehovah's Witness going in and asking a hospital, can you store my blood, please? I don't know whether they would be charged for that extra service, or whether the insurance would pay for that or not.
Well, the other thought, I mean, a lot of things start coming to mind here. So, in more affluent countries like, America and UK and of course all through Europe for the most part. So these affluent countries, they're more than likely willing to work something out where they have to make a charge and they'll charge you for storing it or whatever. But I'm thinking about, what about the poor Jehovah's Witnesses in Africa, in parts of the world where, India, for example, that, they're not really, affluent countries. And I would say that, Garrett Loesch coming on and even making a statement that, brothers and sisters, you now can have blood stored and then have it reinfused back into you. There's got to be a cost here. There's got to be a cost. So I'm thinking that right off the bat, a lot of Jehovah's Witnesses will not have to, they don't have to worry about being a conscience matter. They have to now worry about it being a financial matter. I mean, you put the witnesses down into some tremendous financial burden, The Watchtower doesn't have any feeling at all. Wouldn't it be nice if they could pick up the tab, John,
Yeah, it's not going to be the answer to all of the problems. That's the thing.
Let's, who do we have coming in here now? Is this Anna?
Yes, it is. Hi.
Hi, how are you?
Hello. I'm good, thank you. How are you, Rick?
I'm good, thank you.
Good. No, I just wanted to say that I think quite a lot of the people that do die with Jehovah's Witnesses, or at least the most well-known cases, are often pregnant women. And the problem is that once you become pregnant, they won't let you give blood, because pregnant women often lack iron, and so they won't allow you to donate blood, even if you're donating your own blood. They're very, very reluctant to take blood from pregnant women. So unless you're planning to get pregnant, of course you could do it then, but of course blood has an expiry date. So you'd have to keep giving your blood and storing it until, you actually fell pregnant, and then, the blood is there. But it has a quite short expiry date, as you guys all know. So, it would be quite difficult for pregnant women to store, or for women who wanted to get pregnant, to store their blood, because that's quite commonly when JWs die, blood loss to, giving birth and so on. So it would be really difficult in that situation. Yeah.
Yeah, I think you've highlighted a situation which we said this edict from the Watchtower Society is not going to help or cover people in every situation.
Yeah.
So that was a good point, that pregnant ladies are not able to donate blood.
Yes, no, because of the iron problems, we lack iron when we're pregnant. We have problems because we're creating iron for 2 people or 3 people in my case. So, that's one of the reasons they don't allow pregnant women to donate blood. So whether they let you donate blood for your own pregnancy if you were pregnant, first of all, they wouldn't do that. But if you were planning to get pregnant, you'd have to keep doing it. They'd have to keep throwing it away until you actually fell pregnant, because you can't give it once you are pregnant, if you follow me.
Well, then, thank you very much. No, I do follow. Yeah, well, thank you. You're calling in from the UK, are you?
Yes, I am.
I thought you probably were. Well, thank you for calling in, as we say here in the Six Screens. Really appreciate it. Let's go to 203. 203, you're on with us. Go ahead. 203.
Hi, Rick. It's Carol.
Hi, Carol.
Hi. I was just wondering if, being that their policy has changed, and maybe we'll take two years, maybe 3 years, that they disfellowshipped all the ones that took transfusions. Do you think that they're going to contact these people, invite them back, exonerate them? Do you think
That's a
possibly
good
they'll
question.
reach out?
Well, John, what
So-
do you think? Carol
Well,
has
I've
some...
just imagine a situation where last month a Jehovah's Witness thought exactly what they've now said in print, and they thought, you know what, I'm going to donate my own blood. I think that's okay, and that person gets disfellowshipped. I think the Watchtower Society's policy on that is you weren't a faithful Jehovah's Witness at the time. You have to wait for Jehovah's Chariot, as they call it, Jehovah's organization, to change. So if you make a decision based on your own thinking, even if that thinking becomes policy with Jehovah's Witnesses, I think you'll find they'll say, well, you ran ahead of Jehovah's organization, so you're not going to just be suddenly reinstated, and we're not going to say, oh, you were right all along. Well done, thank you. I think you'll stay disfellowshipped until you show repentance.
Yeah, that was sort of my thought too, but I was wondering how everybody else thought on this. Really, this whole thing is really a joke. But it's good for those now. But thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Carol. Now, I got another thought here, John. I got another thought. Now, I know this is far out there, but I'm just wondering what really is really making me think here is why the Watchtower is moving so quick on this. There's got to be a real reason behind it, and a lot of thoughts entered my head. I mean, all kinds of thoughts like, well, the countries are coming down on them. They're going to be losing funding. We got 14 countries right now that have them under the investigation, under the microscope. So I'm thinking that's the main reason. But there's some other thoughts that went through my head. Now, I have to think of all angles. The Watchtower doesn't share everything with us, so we have to be like the CIA. We have to gather intelligence, and I kind of listen to so many things running through my head. But I got thinking, is it possible? Is it possible that perhaps one of the governing body members or one of their wives or a close family member, needs a transfusion? And, are they bending the rules and doing it this quickly, perhaps to save the life of a governing body member? I know that's far out there, and I know that's probably not the answer. But, this Watchtower, really, you can't make sense out of nonsense. And, we've caught them so many times in the past on the 6 screens here, where they would say that even though something doesn't appear logical from a human standpoint, obey the governing body. This doesn't seem logical to me that the organization, the Watchtower organization, pulled this in the last couple of days. I would think, as I said earlier in the broadcast, you're talking here serious lawsuits where I think it could be even more serious than the child sexual abuse problem. Where we're talking death. We're talking people that have died. I know 2 people. A young Jehovah's Witness guy is 29 years old and died. And if he stored some of his own blood today, if he could have done it back then, he'd probably still be with us. And another witness woman I know died because she took a liver transplant and they changed their mind on that. So, we are opening up Pandora's box. This could be monumental lawsuits. It could actually bankrupt the Watchtower, John. Do you think that could happen?
Yeah, I think it's going to be a major thing. Just going back to, it was interesting who handled the item, because Mark Sanderson, who was on the governing body, I spent some time with him at a conference in Prague. Mark, I think if I'm remembering this right, Mark was in charge of hospital information services in Canada. So he became a sort of an expert, if you like, with regard to the blood issue. So now on the governing body, whether he's had any sort of influence and given an alternative an opinion, I don't know. But I know that Mark Sanderson knows a lot about this because he was in charge of the Canadian branch. And I do agree with you, Rick, that a lot of the changes that they make, and they tell the congregations it's because of spiritual new light. But often it's because a government is suing them for something or won't give them money for something. There's been lots and lots of changes. The one that I remember affected me, because I've in my time as Jehovah's, I've gave I think 4 baptism talks at conventions, and they changed the questions that they asked the audience. When people get baptized, they ask you to stand and you're given 2 questions. Do you believe in Jehovah God and Jesus Christ? And one of them they introduced said, and God's spirit directed organization. And I thought, well, that's nice, the changing light. But what it was, I understand, was that they were being taken to court because someone who was disfellowshipped said that I never agreed to worship with an organization. So they put God's organization in the questions so that they could say, well, when you got baptized, you were asked, would you follow the rules of God's organization? So they make out that they change these rules, that for instance, we had what we used to call the book study, the group study. On a midweek, we'd be meeting in people's houses to have a study of a book. Well, there was so much sexual abuse going on in people's houses that they told the brothers and sisters, we're giving you the night off so you can do your own studying. but it was actual fact because of the amount of sexual abuse that was going on, and it was difficult to defend because it was a Watchtower meeting officially in someone's house. So I'm just giving you examples of where they've had to change their belief system or their pattern of belief, not because of new light, but because they were forced to do it because they were being sued or taken to court. And I think you've hit the nail on the head, that this is another one where there probably would be they're probably getting stung from countries that are saying that they think that this blood issue is too severe, and so they're trying to preempt getting themselves into trouble by making it a lighter and not such a difficult problem.
Well, that's good because, I can think of one country specifically that is really looking into the policies of the Watchtower and specifically blood. They're really concerned about that's the country of Japan. And they're really coming down on the witnesses, on the way they treat children. And they did bring it up on children dying because their parents don't want them to have a blood transfusion. So, this is something that is somewhat current. It's somewhat in their radar screen. So they do have to make some changes. Let's go to, I think we got, go ahead. Yep.
Exactly.
Yeah, Zach.
Rick, okay, what was I going to say? Okay, first, I'm really happy about this change. I don't like the way he made that announcement, like we've prayed to Jehovah. After much prayer and consideration, we prayed to Jehovah on such a serious matter. What made you wait this long, But I'm glad for this because now there's something that some people will be able to use when they have to get medical treatment. I think that the changes, however, I agree with a lot of the reasons already stated, but I think the thing that we have to remember too is that this governing body, they're not the ones who made that rule, no blood rule up in the first place. They're not the ones who said you can't get autologous transfusions in the first place. So when a single brother comes into a body of elders and you're by yourself, I guess Brother Loesch was the first new one. When he came in there, he couldn't say anything. You have to wait until you have enough people to fight with you, to agree with you. Now, at this point, they've got 3 brothers who are brand new. And as none of these brothers were involved in putting this rule on, they may not feel as strongly as those old brothers did, the ones who made the rule up. They may not feel that strongly. They may feel that it's wrong too. And so I think that's part of the changes that you see. You've got new bodies in there, and the tipping point kind of tips the other way now. I think there's a large part of that. I would like to ask Brother John.
Yes.
John, right? John? Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
I really enjoy your answers. What you're saying, everything you say is like I remember it. I have one question to ask about when they made this rule up, and they said not components, but fractions are okay. If I can remember, it was on a service meeting that they had it in Kingdom Ministry. And one of the things that was considered fractions was hemoglobin. And they said that hemoglobin was 33% of red blood cells. So to me, that seemed like a pretty large component. Were there people who asked questions about hemoglobin? Am I wrong about that?
From what I remember, it's red cells, white cells, platelets, and plasma were the 4 major components. Now, with hemoglobin, I think that they even were able to freeze dry certain parts of your blood, and when they do that, it's now become a conscience matter. I'm not 100% sure, and it's been 20 years since I was involved in this, but hemoglobin I think it's the red. I think that's the red cells anyway. So I don't think that.
Yeah.
It's the iron content, the oxygen carrying capacity of the red blood cells, and so that's a major component. So I don't think that that they would be allowed hemoglobin unless you could break the hemoglobin up into something a little bit smaller, and then they would say, well, it's up to you then.
They did say hemoglobin was okay. I do remember that. Hemoglobin
Right.
was okay. They said it was 33% of red blood cells was their statement. But thanks
Right.
so
Well,
much.
okay. Well, then, if that was the case, and as I say, it's been over 20 years now. If that's the case, then I could see why they would say, well, it's not the red blood cells. We're taking some of that stuff from the red blood cells. And so that's more now a minor component, even though it might be 33%. It's as I remember, that there have been many occasions when brothers and sisters have had some medical actions done to them that we thought were not allowed, and in the locality where they were, they got away with it. So I think it's a little bit like the body of elders today. You know, you can get body of elders, some of them are really on the ball and they won't allow you to do this, they won't allow you to do that. And you get to some congregations and they'll allow certain things that you would think, well, we don't do that normally, but they allow it. And I have found that even with this issue of blood, there have been certain places where certain things have been done, and a brother maybe has had some operation procedure that doesn't look as if it should have been allowed, but it has been allowed, or rather the brother has got away with it. So I think that there's been that occasions. I think I mentioned to Rick in an email I sent him earlier, at one of these conferences that I attended in Prague. I remember a doctor giving a talk because it was all about bloodless surgery. And this doctor from Germany, I think it was, gave this talk about how they had helped a Jehovah's Witness who had cancer, and they were able to take some of his blood away from him, took it into another room where they blasted the cancerous cells and got rid of them, and then they were able to put the blood back in him. Now, right now in our discussion, that's okay, but 20 something years ago, that wasn't. And we all threw our hands up and thought, well, you can't do that. You can't do that. But the doctor said he had cleared it with the local Jehovah's Witnesses and that was okay. So you are going to get some variations in these beliefs, as you do with some of the other beliefs as well.
You know, there was years ago, Rick had Barbara Anderson on way back when she first came on, and she made an interesting statement about this this autologous blood transfusion. The witnesses said, you know, it's supposed to be spilled on the ground. Blood, when it's removed from the body, spilled on the ground. And Barbara Anderson said, well, once the blood is removed from the body of an animal who you might be butchering, that animal's dead. It's dead. You can't put the blood back in that animal. So the comparison is so off when you think of a person storing their blood and then having it reinfused. And another thing I do remember in book study is they used the term, when some of the things you were talking about, I think cell salvage, they said there's a machine that the blood may go through and it has to keep moving and go right back into the body. And they said that some witnesses consider that to be an extension of the circulatory system.
That's right. That's right. That was our understanding of how you could allow the cell saver to work. And then it was pointed out to us that no, sometimes the cell saver has to be turned off. And your blood is still in it, but it's not the time for your blood to be let back into your body yet. And people are saying, oh, does it have to be continuous movement? That got discussed and decided no. And I think that there was an illustration that sounds a bit extreme, but if you have a heart attack and your heart's not working and your blood doesn't get pumped round, you don't think, oh, I better have all my blood taken out now because it wasn't moving all the time. So they said, if your cell saver has to stop for a little while and then it's reinfused, that's up to you. It's up to you whether you use a cell saver or not. But you're right. We used to think it had to be completely in a circular motion. So going in one way or coming out one way and going in another way. But in actual fact, that isn't the case, because there are some procedures, such as the one I used earlier called hemodilution, where your blood is let out from you and it doesn't go in a circular form. It just goes into bags that are held up, and eventually that is let go again and goes back into you the same way. So it hasn't gone into any circular motion, but it's still been part of your circulatory system. So it's how you view this, and that's why Watchtower have always said, look, you got to find out about what's happening to your body, how your blood is being used, and in fact, it's what they're saying now. You got to decide what you think is okay. This is what the Bible says, or in fact, Gerrit Loesch is now saying the Bible doesn't comment on it, but it's up to every individual.
Hey, John, we got a lot of callers calling in. We got a guy, Zach. We thank you for calling in. We got a lot of callers.
You, Zach.
Let's go to 978. I think that's Susan. Not you, Susan. Go ahead.
Yes, what makes me sad is I've heard very little about pleasing Jehovah in the discussion, and more about pleasing the governing body and what people can get away with. That's what I hear more of. And I want to know what John Binney thinks of this, because it doesn't seem like you're talking about pleasing Jehovah that much. I mean,
no, I agree. Is it Susan? Yeah, it's like looking for clauses to get out of difficult situations. That's really what's happening. The hold on. Sorry, Sue. Could you say that again? Sorry.
It seems like a person is saying, how can I drive my situation so I can make it like I'm not a sinner?
Yeah, because all of this is because you're made to feel guilty. They are still saying that it is God's word or God's law that you are trying to follow, and that only when the governing bodies say something is up to your conscience, it still doesn't mean that they don't think it's right or wrong. Someone can still think, I wouldn't allow that because I think that it's wrong. But they're giving you the opportunity to, if you like, to get out of that clause. But you're right. It's and we're not hearing a lot about whether it's pleasing to Jehovah or not. It's more mundane decision making.
Yes, because my blood card reads, don't eat food that has been given to idols. Don't eat meat from animals that have been strangled, or any meat that has blood in it. That's what my blood card says. So, and that's from the Bible. And it's the last scripture that mentions blood in humans in the New Testament, as far as I know.
Yes. So that was talking about dietary matters, wasn't it? The blood. And that was a throwback from the... Sorry.
My blood card says Red Cross.
That wasn't me.
It says what? Sorry.
I wish you could respond to what it says in Acts 15:29 and what we've been talking about for the last hour.
Well, why don't you read, Susan, read John, read that verse in the Bible. Let John hear it.
Okay, John John 15:29.
No, Acts 15:29.
Don't,
It's Acts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Acts 15:29. It says, except for these necessary things, don't eat food that has been given to idols. Don't eat meat from animals that have been strangled or any meat that still has blood in it. Don't be involved in sexual sin. And if you stay away from these things, you will do well. We say goodbye now.
Right. Well, we always taught that was out of respect for the life that had been lost for the animal. Is that how you understand that as well? So it was really dietary, a command, because of the blood of something that had lost its life. But as has been pointed out, when you receive a blood transfusion, no one has died by giving that blood. It's all been donated voluntarily, or some people are paid for it. So the blood transfusion argument doesn't equate with the dietary requirement that's mentioned in Acts there. That's how I understand it. But I haven't been a Jehovah's Witness for 20 years, so I could be stand to be corrected.
Well, thank you.
Let's go to 865. 865. Let's go down to 865. You're on with us. Go ahead.
Hello, this is Junction Guy.
What do you have to say,
I'm
Junction
stuck
Guy?
in traffic in Atlanta. I'm on my speakerphone. I'm stuck in traffic in Atlanta. Can you hear me?
We can hear you. Well, what question do you have for us tonight, Junction Guy?
Well, I just wanted to say something. You mentioned earlier about you thought maybe it was one of the governing body members, and that crossed my mind early on, because I was like, why now? Why are they doing this now? It may be one, it may be two. They're older, and I don't know. It's easy to put rules on 10 million people, but when it affects yourself, it's something different. You know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah, no. In fact, it's more meaningful. If you're the king of the kingdom and you can make a rule to keep your life going, you'll do it. You'd give two hoots of beans about everybody else, but you would do it as a king. Yeah.
Yeah.
The other thing is that we've got new governing body members that have been appointed now, and I always remember being taken round the Bethel by Brother Jack Barr, who was on the governing body, and he took us into the governing body's room, and he said that we meet here at 8 o'clock every Wednesday morning. He said, and we have to discuss new stuff that people bring up. So if a governing body member has this new idea of blood, for instance, he would present it to the governing body, and if he gets a 2/3 majority, it goes into new light. So that was how Brother Jack Barr explained to me how they get things discussed. And it might be that you get half saying one thing and half saying another. Well, that's not good enough. Jehovah hasn't revealed it so correctly. But apparently, if someone can get 2/3 of the governing body to see that needs to be changed, then hey presto, it's new light.
Good. Thank you, Junction Guy, for calling in, and take it easy out there. Be very careful traveling. Let's go down to Chicago. 312. 312. You're on with us. Go ahead. 312. You're on with us. All right. Maybe not.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Yeah. Yes, we can. Yep.
This is Stefan. How you doing, Brother Farron?
Good, thank you.
I just had a quick question. I know that I've heard a number of witnesses talk about these kinds of changes to the blood doctrine open Watchtower up to lawsuits. And I have to be honest and say, I can't possibly see how a person can take a lawsuit to court about a family member, somebody they knew, whatever the case was, not taking a blood transfusion because their religion said it was wrong and the person died. Nobody puts a gun to your head to make you a Jehovah's Witness. And I'm talking this from the perspective of a court. We know about the pressure you face in family and friends and all that. But from a court standpoint, nobody puts a gun in your head to make you a part of this religion. Nobody put a gun in your head to make you get a blood card and sign it and agree to not have blood. You did that of your own will and accord. Now, let's take away the issue with children. So let's not bring children into this. We're just talking about grown-ups that are making this decision. So my question is, how is it that a lawsuit could be brought against Watchtower because of a blood policy? I just don't understand how you could bring that.
Well, I'm not sure either. I think this is one of the things that is we're going to now sit back and look at. I think, as with a lot of laws and cases, they are tried in court, and someone is successful or someone isn't. I think there's enough there for someone to make a case that it was their policy that you must not have blood, and if you had blood, you would be thrown out of that particular religion as not pleasing to God. If that was the policy that you acted under, and you took blood and you died, and then a few years later, your policy is, oh, well, actually, we think now that it's okay for you to decide. I think it needs to be tested. I don't know what the chances are, but I think it will be tested.
Well, John, I got a feeling on that. I got a feeling. In fact, Stephen and John, recently on the news, probably a few months back, there was a person that kind of aided in another person committing suicide. They kind of suggested to them that they had to do a certain thing and what have you. And the person committed suicide. And the person that was suggesting this to the person was, from what I recall, sent to prison for this. So, in many ways, the Watchtower is actually having people commit suicide. I mean, really, when you stop and think about it, even though you say, well, it's on their own volition, they follow the Watchtower. But boy, if you could find if you could find a good reason, and I'm sure there's lawyers that could come up with a really good a good situation where the Watchtower could be on the hook here, especially maybe not from the person closest. Well, let me put it this way to you. So your husband died. You were not. The wife was not one of Jehovah's Witnesses. So the husband died, and lost support for the family. And this was all brought about because of the quacky laws of the Watchtower. I'm sure there's some laws that would give that spouse the reason to go forth with a lawsuit. But I'm not a lawyer, but I don't know. But John, I'm sure there's got to be a way around this, right?
I would think so. I just think I don't know, because I'm not a lawyer either, and I'm not very bright. But I know that when someone has died for their beliefs, if it's an honourable thing, I can see your point, sir, that it was their decision. But I, like Rick, I think it could be family members that are not Jehovah's Witnesses that will run with this, or at least go and see a lawyer and talk over the matter. And it will be interesting to see where it leads.
Hey, I got to give a gold star to a good friend in Chicago there, because I'll tell you the truth, I never thought of that, but he's got a good point there. He really, really has a darn good point.
Well, I tell you what, yeah.
Stephen, we're having trouble with your phone. Go ahead, Stephen. We're having trouble with your phone. Go ahead.
I don't think that's me, but I'm saying very briefly that I have a family member that's a judge, and I didn't want to bother her today, but I'm gonna and ask her about this. She probably won't know, but maybe there's somebody that in her circle that she could ask to see if they're, because like I said, every time I've ever thought about this, I remember a long time ago, you guys were like, yeah, if they ever get rid of that blood policy, it's going to open them up to so many lawsuits. But I could just never figure out a way of how you're going to present. It's not like a con man where, you know, he sold you a bond and then you find out later that the bond wasn't legitimate, that he didn't even own a company and all of that. Well, that you can take to court, you know, for fraud and all of that. But I just don't know how you bring this, you know, to court. But I'll ask.
Hold on one
that would be
second.
great.
I got to step in here. We got a lot of people calling in. Pixie, hold on for a second. We got people, Pixie. The new rule here on the 6 screens is I got to let everyone have a voice here. So we have a person trying to.
I was trying to answer Stefan's question.
Well, answer in a few seconds. Anonymous, come on.
Yeah, according to AI, storing blood that costs a lot of money, and some insurance don't pay that. That is in the United States. Some insurance don't pay that, and storing blood that runs in lot of money. And about if you're able to sue them, ask AI. Maybe AI gives you information about it. Thank you. Have a good night. Bye.
Oh, thank you. Okay, Pixie, come on back now. Answer what you wanted to say to Stefan.
Stefan, I did some research. I'm not an attorney, but I did work in a law office with an attorney. And the only loophole I could find was that the snake handling churches in Virginia were closed down by the Supreme Court because people died. So there may be a loophole because people have died from the blood policy. I would also ask your relative who's a judge about the fact that people are signing a durable power of attorney. The blood card is actually a durable power of attorney when they should be getting a legitimate durable power of attorney from an elder lawyer or someone for $150 that is an attorney. So keep those two things in mind. And that's all I know about that.
Okay, we'll do. Thanks.
All right, let's go to I think it's Dick or Constance. Dick or Constance, you're on with us. Go ahead.
Yeah, hi Rick. I was just going to say in reference to Stefan's question, you know, when a person has their will written up, it's so that, you know, they can have their assets, their money, their home, whatever they have, their cars, given after they pass, given to whomever they want, friends, family, neighbors, whatever. It's their will. And one stipulation that's in the will is that there's no coercion, that the person was of sound of mind. And that's really, really critical. Well, you know, when it comes to Watchtower, yeah, there are JWs that are baptized, but they do, when it comes to their life, and it's life or death, and they need to have blood, yes, there are some that are Nazi JWs and, you know, they die for their faith. But there are other ones that think to themselves, you know, I don't necessarily agree with this, and they would go ahead and have a blood transfusion. I mean, we know of cases like that. But what's interesting is you get that liaison committee coming in, which was after I left in '83. There was no liaison committee. But after that, they had the liaison committee come in, which was really pressuring the JW in the hospital. And, you know, Rick, the way I see it, and Stefan too, I see it as coercion. I mean, that's, you know, the JW might consider, no, I will have the blood transfusion, but now I'm so pressured against my own personal will that, you know, the elders are here. And if I do have a blood transfusion, now I'm going to be disfellowshipped. That is coercion.
Yeah.
Is coercion. And so, you know, there could be a lawsuit with that, because if you went to a court, you know, if it applies in a case where someone's writing up their own personal will with an attorney that's legal, what's the difference between that and saying that, you know, I really wanted the blood transfusion, but I was coerced because of the elders? I think that definitely could cause some lawsuits among the, you know, and if it's not maybe the particular JW, you know, if Johnny's on here, Johnny Marciano, I hope he would chime in. When his father was needed a blood transfusion, it was very serious. you know, they're Italian, and the Italians are very, very close-knit family. And Johnny was telling me that his father's sister, which was his aunt, oh my God, she went ballistic. She went ballistic on all the elders. Don't you dare tell my brother he can't have a blood transfusion. You're trying to have him die. And it was she made a big to-do at the hospital, and you are not going to kill my brother. And he ended up having a blood transfusion and lived because of it. So anyway, that's what I just wanted to say. Thank you, Rick.
Well, that's an interesting twist, John. Thank you, Constance. Yeah, coercion. Coercion.
Yeah.
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 I'm
The
sure.
case, Rick, that is an interesting point, because as with the child abuse thing, it's individual elders that have been taken to court, and then Watchtower. So it could be that if an elder has been seen to be coercing someone, maybe getting them to sign the blood card or something, if that can be proved, then that individual elder could be taken to court. Then, of course, he would reach out to Watchtower to say help. But so there's a possibility that individual brothers might be the first people to be brought to court.
Wow, I wish we had a lawyer on with us, because Stefan's got me thinking here now. It really, really does. But there's got to be a little loophole here somewhere. There's got to be something that somebody could sue them on, a relative dying, I would think. Okay, let's go to 213. You're on with us. Go ahead, 213.
Hey, Rick, how you doing?
I'm good.
Hey, Rick, do you remember back in the 70s that the elders used to tell Jehovah's Witnesses that had pets that they couldn't have their pets have a blood transfusion if, like, they got hit by a car or something like that, and so it even extended to animals couldn't have a blood transfusion back in the 70s.
Oh yeah, I remember.
that?
I do remember that, John. I'll tell you, they had some wacky thoughts. As a matter of fact, at one point, they even said you shouldn't buy plywood that has blood in it. Now, I'm saying plywood having blood in it. Well, they were saying that the plywood was meshed together with horse's glue, and the horse's glue had blood in it. So, I mean, can you imagine going to the Home Depot and saying to the clerk over there, "Gee, does this plywood have blood in it?" I mean, how wacko is that? You know, jeez.
Yeah.
Well, that actually was true.
That we have to be careful when we go to the dentist if we have a tooth pulled, because that's blood. We're taking in like blood in our mouth, you know. So they have to tell us, you know, you gotta be careful when you have your tooth pulled, because you're actually accepting blood when your blood is going back in your mouth.
Well, John, they actually got on our case. I remember as a kid, you know, kids will do it, and even grown-ups do it. You know, you cut your finger, get a little paper cut, you immediately put your finger up to your mouth and suck the blood. I mean, you're not being like a vampire here, but it's just a human reaction. And they even were frowning on that. You know, I can remember some of the witness kids, their mothers were saying, "Don't do that. Don't put that blood in your mouth. That's the Jehovah doesn't like that." You know, jeez. Crazy stuff, John. Well, thank you, John. Good to hear from you. Thank you.
Okay.
All right, let's go. Let's see what else we got. Good. Okay, let's go to 651? 651. Come on, you're on with us.
Yeah, Rick, I think I have a good point to make about what the caller said about, you know, Jehovah's Witnesses are not forced. They don't have a gun pointed at their head. They're not forced to not take a blood transfusion. And the question was, well, you know, how could you take the Watchtower to court? You know, well, if you think about this, just think a family of Jehovah's Witnesses, and there's a little child that's born, and his mom and dad's a Jehovah's Witness. So this little child is taught. They're taught the teachings of the Watchtower. They never had a chance to really think for themselves, you know, make their own decision. And then they get baptized at the age of, let's say, 9, 10, 11, or 12, or something like that. So don't you think that would be a good argument? Let's just say this child grows up and has a bad experience with whatever his wife dies or something or whatever. But don't you think that would be a good argument in court that this child was taught this teaching about the blood doctrine?
I do. I think that's a wonderful argument. Years ago on our program, we did have a man. His name was Lawrence Hughes, and he was a Jehovah's Witness at the time. His wife was a loyal witness, and Lawrence Hughes' daughter, her name was Brittany, and Brittany needed a blood transfusion. And he, even though he's a witness, he wanted her to have it, and she refused. She didn't want to take it. The mother was putting pressure on it too. So young Brittany died. She died. She didn't take the blood transfusion, and he sued the Watchtower, and he did have a case, but they had a battery of lawyers come in. He went bankrupt trying to fight them, but he did have a legitimate case. He was trying to raise money to bring it through the court system, but that's exactly what the Watchtower would do, is they would have a whole battery of lawyers come down on you and make it very, very difficult. But I'm gonna see if we can't get an answer to this question, because that's got me thinking tonight. Stefan's got me thinking. But coercion, what you just mentioned as well, Greg, is also a sensible way to approach this. Yep.
Can I just say, Rick, that in our country now, in the UK, coercion has been introduced into law. So we have several situations where if someone is guilty of coercing and controlling behavior, they can go to prison. So it's obviously open for debate as to whether this is part of it or could be part of it, but certainly is worth exploring.
Well, there you go, John. Well, John, I know it's getting very late for you over there, and you've been so nice to stay on with us so long. Yeah, what time is it over there in England?
It's 2:15 in the morning.
Well, listen, I don't want to keep you up much longer, John. What's your last words to the audience here tonight?
Well, I want to thank them for tuning in. I almost don't feel qualified to answer most of the questions, although I was a Jehovah's Witness for over 55 years. And I'll just reiterate what I said right at the very beginning, that a lot of people have been affected by this. It's a lot of people are angry, are sad, and that they want action. They want something done about it. So let's not leave it like that. Let's do something positive. I'm going to now contact some lawyers, and I'm sure you'll do the same thing over there. And let's just put it to a couple of lawyers that have been friendly to maybe ex-Jehovah's Witnesses, and also who understand what Jehovah's Witnesses believe, and let's see if we can introduce that as a possible case, and what they think the possibilities are. And perhaps you could revisit this, Rick.
Well, you got me thinking now, because I mean, lawyers, at least in this country, I mean, they're doing anything they can to get a lawsuit. I mean, they really, really are. These personal injury lawyers and lawyers going after, people who burned themselves on a cup of coffee from McDonald's. I mean, some frivolous lawsuits, but this is not frivolous. This has some legs on it. I'm going to put it to the test. As a matter of fact, I got to see a lawyer the next couple of weeks here. I'm gonna ask him what he thinks, and we'll report back here on the 6 Screens, or anybody else out there. If you have a lawyer in the family, or you have a lawyer, ask them, and we can discuss it even come next week. John, you're a man and a half. Don't you ever change. We love you. You're a good guy. You really, really are, and you really brought forth a lot of information tonight. Thank you, John. I know you just got back. What, you just get back yesterday from a trip over here in the United States, right?
Yeah, that was quite funny. That I've just spent 3 weeks in 3 nights in New York, 3 nights in Chicago, and about 8 nights in Nashville. I went to the Grand Ole Opry, so I can sing you a country song, but I won't do that now. And yeah, and my plane got delayed, believe it or not, so by 2 days.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. So I only got back from America last night.
Well, you must be
So,
tired. You must be tired.
well, yeah, I think I've worked through it now. I think I'm back into USA time now. So, but never mind, I'll get over it. Thank you very much, Rick, and everyone for your attention to these matters.
Well, we love having you on, John. I'll be in touch with you and keep waving that flag of victory. And don't you ever change. Thank you, John. Vinny.
No, okay. And if we get some answers from any lawyers, Rick, I'll contact you just to let you know what they say this end.
And vice versa. Thank you, John.
Okay.
All right. Well, that was John Vinny. My goodness gracious. What a great guy, huh? And sensible. What a sensible minded man. We are so glad to be able to be friends with John. Friends, I have to tell you, he knows a lot about the blood doctrines of the Watchtower. So I don't know what's going on with the Watchtower this week and why they changed the blood doctrine. I can only believe it's because of legal battles that are going on with them, that they're under investigation in so many states. And I believe due to the legal pressures and, of course, all the information coming across the internet about Jehovah's Witnesses and AI, many people are becoming very aware of the Jehovah's Witness movement. And these people are becoming aware of their blood doctrine, how many people have died. They're becoming aware of the rollbacks, the flip-flops. The Watchtower is changing, and they can't hide it anymore. So I'm believing this has got to be more of a legal issue. I think perhaps corporate strategists, and we know the Watchtower has to rely on people giving them counsel and strategy. I'm sure they have corporate strategists, and these corporate strategists and legal strategists are telling them they've got to end the blood doctrine. They've got to do it. And they're doing it now, from what we can say. So they have to do this in phases. They just can't, okay, fine, you're going to have a blood transfusion. And they've been doing it in phases, looking at the fraction arrangements. Now you can take your own blood. And so they have to do this in phases so it's not so shocking. But in the meantime, I know they're expecting many current Jehovah's Witnesses to leave. I know the governing body understands this. You cannot come out with a message that shocking and expect the witnesses to all go, oh, that's wonderful. I mean, a lot of them are really brain washed, brain dead, you could say. But many are not just going to accept this as, oh, that's okay. The Watchtowers, as I heard today, one loyal Jehovah's Witness woman said, well, isn't it nice that Jehovah's kind of bending the rules so it's easier for our witnesses? Well, Jehovah doesn't bend rules. I mean, he doesn't. He doesn't bend rules. He has hard, fast rules, and he never had rule that you couldn't take a blood transfusion. But anyways, I want to thank you all for coming on to the Six Screens Telenetwork tonight. Friends, this is where ex-Jehovah's Witnesses come to talk, and they come every Saturday night and every other Sunday. Now, we will have a Sunday program tomorrow. Now, we touch on theology. We don't get into theology on Saturday night. But if you are concerned about Watchtower doctrine, theology, we'll bring up the blood question again tomorrow because that's part of the doctrine. We'll get into it with the scriptures. So if you're really concerned about doctrine and scriptures, you can get your Bible questions answered tomorrow. You can get your doctrinal questions answered. We have a program starting at 1 o'clock. It's called Knowing God After Leaving the Watchtower. And we have two Christian apologists that come on. And we got a number of programs. In fact, Anne-Marie will be back tomorrow with her ex-Jehovah's Witnesses share their story of being in the Watchtower. That's at 2 o'clock. And then we do JW World News Sunday edition. That'll be at 3 o'clock. And then we have a program called The Christian Court. You know, in real Christianity, you can ask questions. You might even get different answers. But in the Watchtower, you can ask a question, but you can't question their answers. And then at 5 o'clock tomorrow, why don't you join us at 5 o'clock tomorrow? Jay Hess. He at one time was associated with the writing department of the Watchtower. He has a program called Jay Hess Making Disciples, and he'll give you answers to your Bible questions. He does it every week, every other week here on the 6 Screens. So why don't you join us tomorrow? Now, what we'll do here tonight, we'll leave the telephone lines open for those that want to stay on. It's not going to be recorded. It's not going to be live on YouTube or Facebook. So if you want to speak up, but don't everyone speak at once, mute yourself or cover the receiver when you're not talking. And then there'll be some, good communication taking place in there on the after hours of 6 Screens. So thank you all. Keep standing tall. Don't you ever give in, up, or out. And the last one, leaving the Watchtower, please turn off the new light. See you tomorrow on 6 Screens Sunday.